Hi everyone, I'm Sammy, and I am so excited to engage in this journey with you to help you share Jesus with your digital community. Now, I know many of you are tuning in today to learn how to use tools like texting and social media to share Jesus, but we're going to take a step back today and start with the basics. We're going to talk about the first step in building relationships with people that allows you the opportunity to share Jesus. So today's topic is starting with authenticity and prayer. The first step in sharing Jesus with your digital community isn't about you at all. It's about listening to and praying for the people you want to speak to. We often try to make sharing Jesus all about ourselves. We talk about how we're scared to do it because we don't want to be rejected, or we don't feel like we know enough. We're not pastors, so why would we need to share Jesus? It's not our job. But I'd really encourage you, before you try to engage in any of this, to take a step back and realize that it's about God and it's about the people you're trying to share Jesus with. So that's kind of our context for today. Ephesians 4, verse 1 through 3 gives us some advice on how we can go about building a relationship with someone and what kind of attitude we should approach this with. In Ephesians, Paul says, "I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received." And for all of us, that's a calling as Christians to share Jesus. "Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bonds of peace." So when we approach people with humility and with gentleness and with peace and with the interest in truly getting to know them, we'll earn the opportunity to share Jesus. Jesus calls all of us to love, and love starts with listening. Now, we often know this in our family relationships that we need to listen to one another to show our love and appreciation for others. But we kind of forget it when we approach a conversation with a stranger or with somebody who's new in our lives. In a culture where we feel like we have to just yell louder and be heard, we forget that listening is the first step. Now, everything that I'm talking about today works face-to-face really well, and we know that. But we also know that face-to-face isn't an option for many. So I want to assure you that all of this works with digital tools as well. Video chats, text messaging, direct messaging, instant messaging, any of those are opportunities where you can build relationships and listen to someone. Now, listening might involve reading carefully and understanding what the person is trying to type to you, or asking some questions to clarify. But this works well in digital, especially one-on-one conversations digital, as it does in person. Before we earn the opportunity to share how Jesus has worked in our lives, we need to understand and listen to the stories of the people in front of us and pray for them. Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, lists habit number 5 as seek first to understand and then be understood. When we understand where a person is coming from, their past experiences, their current reality, it allows us to better understand who they are, show that we care for them, and then figure out how we can share Jesus with them and show love to them right where they're at. Michael Bungay-Stanier, in his book, The Coaching Habit, explains some very simple but questions that we don't ask enough to show that we're actively listening and engage in good conversations where we can understand people. The first question is super simple. What's on your mind? Asking this question allows the person who's talking to talk about anything that they're thinking about or that's on their hearts. You can follow up this question with a simple, "And what else?" This allows the person to add more to it. Often when somebody's sharing their story, they feel like they're just talking and talking and talking. And when you say, "And what else?" it shows you want to learn more. After you feel like, or they feel like they've kind of exhausted their whole story, you can ask them to reflect by asking the question, "What's the real challenge for you here?" We know as Christians that many of our challenges come in when we don't rely on God, but someone who doesn't have a relationship with God is probably not going to recognize that. You can also ask them, and what do you want? We want for them to get to know Jesus, but that's probably not what they want. And that's a really important piece in understanding where they're at and who they are and what they're going through. The final question is what leads into us sharing our faith sometimes. And it's, how can I help? If they don't know how you can help, a really simple follow-up question, which is from me, not from Stanier, but it's, can I pray for you? And when we're engaging in a conversation with someone and getting to know them and building an authentic relationship, this question opens up a door. Once we've shown that we've shown how much we love someone through listening to them, we can show our love for them through prayer. Now, I know that praying for someone is a little scary sometimes because you feel like somebody's going to say, I don't want you to pray for me. But I can tell you through personal experience, offering to pray for someone in a difficult situation is most likely not going to be rejected, especially if someone's going through something really, really challenging and you text them, can I pray for you? They're going to say yes, because there's no harm, they're not committing to anything, and they think, why not? Lisa Turkhurst explains the importance of prayer and the impact of prayer. She says, the reality is my prayers don't change God, but I am convinced that prayer changes me. Praying boldly boots me out of that stale place of religious habit into authentic connection with God Himself. When we offer to pray for someone and take time to actually pray with them, we're not only building them up by showing our concern and our love for them, we're building our own faith and showing this person you're talking to how important prayer is for you, and that you, like they can, have a real, honest relationship with your Heavenly Father. Now, many of us fall into the trick of saying, I'll definitely pray for you. And then life happens. We forget, we don't write it down. So I'd really encourage you to not just say that you're going to pray for someone. Pray for them right then, right now, no matter how awkward it is. If you're face-to-face, it's probably the most awkward because the person may not feel comfortable or even know what to do while you're praying. So you can guide them and say, I'm going to take a minute to fold my hands and bow my head and talk to my Heavenly Father about you and pray for you. If you're doing a video chat, you can do the same thing. If you're texting or using some other form of typing back and forth, like email, you can simply write out your prayer. You can write out exactly how you're praying to your Heavenly Father for this person. For me, who feels a little awkward having conversations with people sometimes, this is really effective because it shows the person that you're praying right then and right there, but you get the opportunity to edit what you're saying so it sounds exactly how you want it to sound for that person. Of course, God hears no matter what we're saying. So it's not for God, but it is for you and for that other person. So the last step in building a relationship and starting with authenticity in prayer is continuing to listen and pray. We can listen and pray now, but we've got to keep it going. We've got to follow up with that person later on. Even if it's a quick text, hey, I prayed for you today. How is it going? When we follow up with someone, we're showing them how much we care and that we are really, truly interested in who they are. So, as we've talked about today, we want to first pray for a person going into a conversation. We want to listen and come to an understanding of what that person is going through and who they are. And we want to take opportunities with that person to pray for them and talk to our Heavenly Father about what they're going through. When we start relationships with authenticity and with prayer, we're building trust, we're building relationships, and we're earning the opportunity to share Jesus. Next week, we're going to dive into what that looks like when we share our Jesus story. I'll give you some tips and some tools on how you can identify what your Jesus story is and then how you can share it with those people you've started building relationships with. I encourage you this week to find an opportunity to connect with someone. Pray for that person on your own. Ask that person how it's going and come to an understanding of where they're at, and then pray with them. that God would support them and build a relationship through your conversations. That's it for this week. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 6:30 as we continue this series, Sharing Jesus with Your Digital Community.